Well, and it took the better part of a year or maybe longer to kind of get to the place where you could talk about the virus origins as being something that could have come from a lab, even theoretically, as not something that was a conspiracy theory anymore. Right? I hate that term, actually. The more I think about it, it seems like this pejorative term to, kind of designed to dismiss.
You're
right?
very, very smart, because I discussed that in my second book. That was a phrase that the use that you're discussing was devised by the CIA as a response to the theories about JFK, conspiracy theories about his assassination. And it was shown in documents that there was a suggestion that agents go out and talk to reporters and talk about these things as conspiracy theories. And again, common sense should tell you, as it does me. I'm married to a former law enforcement official who has said to me many times, the conspiracy theory phrase and its use doesn't make sense. Nearly everything is a conspiracy. When you look at law enforcement, it simply means two or more people getting together with an idea, usually for something nefarious. So virtually any robbery that involves more than one person is a conspiracy. Bonnie and Clyde's a conspiracy. The mob's a conspiracy. Many things in the official charges are conspiracy to commit X. And yet, when you hear people say conspiracy theory, that's designed to pluck this little part of your brain that says, well, that thing's not true. And I think it's a very well-studied phrase that works well on people who don't think it out. To me, that's often a cue that tells me that thing may well be true. And I'm not saying it is because it's called a conspiracy theory, but someone's trying to debunk it usually means a powerful interest is behind it, and it makes me want to go search for more information on that thing. And I always keep an open mind and say, that crazy thing that they say is a conspiracy theory may well have some truth in it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. There's so many that have turned out to be true in the last few years. That's the part that's, it almost has lost meaning, actually, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the good side of it. They've almost overplayed their hand, those trying to shape the information by being so transparent with certain key phrases, which I've used in my book and outlined. When you hear debunked, I mean, debunked was never something people used to go around saying, hello, I debunked something today. This is a phrase that was invented and used specifically for this purpose as conspiracy theory, quackery, anti-vaccine. That was a phrase that was unheard of when I started covering vaccine safety issues when I was assigned to do that for CBS many years ago. That suddenly emerged on the landscape, that anybody who asked a logical, rational question about the safety of a medicine for an individual was suddenly portrayed as anti-vaccine. That's been a very effective propaganda tool that has marginalized people who certainly aren't anti-vaccine, but kept them from wanting to even ask or dig into questions that people were starting to ask in the early 2000s. So there's a whole cast of propaganda phrases that I've outlined that I think those are cues. When you hear them, they should make you think, I need to find out more about it.
I have to mention this because I was kind of stunned to discover that the term anti-vaxxer, I think it's in the Webster dictionary, was modified at some point. And this was before vaccine mandates were being imposed by federal government and so forth. It was changed to someone who is, against vaccines to someone who is against vaccines or vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
Right. So
and who decided that's what it means?
This is the fascinating little research project for someone to do, because apparently this was before the sort of the big push. The conspiracy theory would be that it was changed to kind of facilitate the vaccine mandate uptake and so forth.
And I think that's true, because remember I said that virtually every form of information and sourcing that can be co-opted has been. That includes the dictionary definitions, that includes everything, because these are important ways to influence thought. Language is very powerful. People don't want to be affiliated with certain names and labels. It reminds me of 1984, the George Orwell story about the futuristic society under which history was being rewritten in real time to jibe with the version that the government wanted or the party wanted it to be. Definitions now are being rewritten and changed in real time to fit with the vision that whatever the establishment wants people to think. We've seen examples outside of coronavirus, but also related to coronavirus, where websites are changed and definitions are altered a little bit to fit the facts. I remember hearing people say, when it turned out the vaccines didn't prevent spread, they didn't prevent infection, they didn't prevent spread, they weren't 100% effective, they didn't prevent hospitalization necessarily, they didn't prevent death, like all these things that were said, people were trying to say, well, they never said that. And I had to go back because it's hard to cull through on the internet and do a search that takes all this out, but I was able to with a date search, to go back and find that, yes, it was said in the beginning, it was claimed that the vaccines were nearly 100% effective at preventing infection. Today I'm hearing people say, no one ever said the vaccines would prevent infection. And so this definition of what made these effective vaccines were modified over time because they turned out to be wholly ineffective in a traditional sense at preventing infections. So they redefined it to, well, they prevent the spread. And then when they didn't prevent spread, they redefined it. It just, again, makes me think about definitions being rewritten in real time to fit with what they want you to think. A thing that I love that people at home, maybe have never heard of is the Wayback Machine. Do you know about the Wayback Machine?
Of course.
This has been like a really invaluable tool for reporting. If you want to see how a website has changed and prove to yourself that, gosh, that didn't say that yesterday, this public health website or this definition, you can go to archive.org, and you can paste in that website. And many times, I would say 3 out of 5 times, an old version has been captured and you can prove to yourself that you were right, that this website used to say something different or a definition has been slightly changed because the old site is captured. And this has been a way it's been a fascinating way to prove the effort to change our perception of how things are and the reality and what we thought we remembered from the other day. Because all we really have now is the electronic record by and large. And if that can be manipulated, there could be a time when, if they get rid of the Wayback Machine, for example, that we can't ever prove that anything was any different. It's only what we see at that moment that someone was able to show us with no record of what things used to look like.
There's another site, archive.is, and I kind of use both because sometimes one is archived in Wayback Machine and not. Other one, this archive.is site, I use these all the time.
Good to know. I didn't know there was an alternative.
Especially when I see something that I think is going to get changed, I immediately go and archive it. Now the thing is, I'm wondering myself, when will these systems be co-opted, or will they be co-opted?
Me too. I'm surprised they're still there because it's been a very valuable tool to fight propaganda and narratives. I did a story on the Wayback Machine people, but one has to suspect there are a lot of people that don't like that they exist,